A brilliant special operation. The Ukrainian flag has been raised on the Kimburn Spit. Russian troops are fleeing. Mass desertion of Russians in the Sumy direction. Powerful explosions in Crimea and the Moscow region. Hundreds of Ukrainian drones are attacking Russia. China enters the war. After Trump's threats, Beijing is increasing its military support for Russia. The US will buy Ukrainian drones. Under pressure from Trump, Putin is inclined to agree to a ceasefire. Hello, my name is Yulia Kokan. And right now, the main news. But first, like this video if you support Ukraine and subscribe to our channel so we don't lose each other on YouTube. The situation at the front is tense. Unfortunately, the Russians have occupied the settlement of Shevchenko in the Donetsk region. This is confirmed by deep state data. Also, according to the military, in the Donetsk region, the enemy managed to advance near Zeleny Pol, Mirn and Pishane. The military are also reporting an escalation of the situation near Pokrovsk. Meanwhile, in the Sumy direction, the occupiers themselves are having a hard time. There, the number of Russian deserters has increased, and those who didn't manage to escape are being poisoned. Russian soldiers have been complaining for several days now about poisoned water, which is causing mass deaths among Russian army personnel. According to the Russians, the water is being supplied by volunteers.
So, this kind of water was delivered. The quality of the bottles is terrible and questionable. Here, there are no ponds, some are full, some are on the field, all different. In general, we've received information that the water is poisoned, and the caps on them are also different.
Guys, the information is confirmed. I'll send you a video now and a voice message from the soldiers. There are no casualties yet in the Zaporizhia direction, and God willing, there won't be. They're adding, well, I don't know, either poison or some kind of narcotic substances. You'll see everything for yourselves now. Also, the soldiers ask you to pay attention that this is not coming from stores. The water in stores is fine. Water, food, and so on. This is being done under the guise of humanitarian workers, under the guise of volunteers. So be alert, soldiers. If you truly do not know the volunteers, if you have not explicitly asked them for any assistance, then please do not take any food from them.
By the way, death at the front for Russian soldiers is becoming more and more varied. Ukrainian army strikes, friendly fire, blocking detachments, and now even water and food. And speaking of strikes by the armed forces of Ukraine, here's another excellent example of the precision of Ukrainian troops from the 3rd Assault Brigade in the Kharkiv region. Attention, Ukrainian drones are at work. In addition, Ukrainian soldiers raised the flag at one of the enemy's observation posts on the Kimburn Spit, which is occupied by the Russians. According to public sources, the flag was raised after a hostile group of occupiers was eliminated. Furthermore, the Russians are whining that the Ukrainians have significantly increased their activity in this direction. We wish our soldiers inspiration and strength. Thank them for their superhuman work in the comments. I know they're watching us. It's not hard for you, and it will be nice for them to read that they are supported not only in Ukraine but also throughout the entire civilized world.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
While Kyiv, thanks to the presence of U.S. Special Representative Keith Kellogg, remains in a precarious but safe situation, Russia is taking out its aggression on other Ukrainian cities. Last night, Russia attacked Dnipro with drones. As a result of the enemy attack, 1 person was killed and 10 others were injured. The Russians also struck the region. The occupiers attacked Nikopol district with Grads and FPV drones. They also struck rescuers who had arrived to deal with the aftermath of the attack. But As they say, it takes two to play this game. On the night of the 17th of July, the Russians couldn't sleep either. In the evening, Ukrainian drones began attacking Russia. Belgorod was hit the hardest.
Did you actually see the truly massive and devastating explosion that just occurred?
Drones also visited Voronezh, where, according to local media, a drone fragment struck a high-rise building.
There's the wing from DC.
The sounds of explosions were also heard in the Moscow region. Crimea was also hit. On the occupied peninsula, two powerful explosions were heard in the Kerch area. Media reports say that in the Smolensk region, there were strikes on a repair plant for flight support equipment. In the Tula region, explosions were heard near the chemical plant. Of course, in Russia, they claim they shot everything down. But because of the drones, even flights at the St. Petersburg airport were delayed. However, Russian media talk not only about the successful downing of drones, but also about the successful work of the FSB. The Kremlin claims that in that same Voronezh, the FSB detained a Ukrainian agent who, on orders from Kyiv, was gathering information about Russian air defense systems.
According to the FSB, the 41-year-old Russian was passing information about air defense assets in the Voronezh region to Ukrainian intelligence and was preparing a sabotage operation using a homemade explosive device at an energy infrastructure facility in the region. The security service claims that the Russian citizen proactively contacted an employee of the main intelligence directorate of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense via WhatsApp and agreed to participate in intelligence and sabotage activities.
How do you like this turn of events? Share your thoughts in the comments. The US President's Special Representative for Ukraine and Russia, Keith Kellogg, said that he visited several Ukrainian defense facilities together with Ukrainian officials. He wrote about this on his personal page on X.
I saw with my own eyes how Ukrainian drones are created and developed. This is incredible innovation, especially in the field of drones. In this new era and type of warfare, they are the leaders. Their speed of innovation and ability to adapt is impressive. Our defense industry should take a cue from them and adapt.
President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, confirmed. US President Donald Trump stated that the United States wants to buy Ukrainian drones. Zelensky shared this in an interview with Newsmax.
I told him that I want to buy weapons that only you have. He replied that America wants to buy Ukrainian drones. I want America to help us protect our skies. This is very important.
Well, that's good news. The main thing is that the Americans don't change their minds. Putin may agree to negotiations. This was the main point in an article published by ABC News. Journalists write that during a meeting in the Oval Office with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Trump threatened the Kremlin with harsh tariffs if it did not reach a deal to end the war within 50 days.
After months of threatening to completely cut off military aid to Ukraine, on Monday Trump instead promised to send billions in weapons, but said Europe would have to pay for them.
The publication also notes that if Trump now allows a significant amount of American weapons to continue flowing to Ukraine, it would mark an important shift. However, as the publication points out, it remains unclear how seriously Putin takes Trump's new approach to the war in Ukraine.
Some experts doubt that the United States will be able to effectively implement tariff sanctions against Russia after the 50-day period expires.
The article states that secondary tariffs, which could be imposed both on Russia and its partners who import Russian oil and gas, may have a powerful effect. However, this is a complex issue, and such a decision could lead to a serious confrontation with China. Trump mentioned the 50-day period because, according to Russia's plans, that's how long the summer offensive is expected to last. Therefore, the Trump administration hopes that once this offensive ends, Putin will be more inclined to negotiate, especially if the offensive turns out to be unsuccessful. And what do you think, will such a move by Trump really force a Russian dictator to sit down at the negotiating table? I know that many people watch our news from abroad. Write in the comments which country you're watching us from and whether you support Ukraine in its fight against Putin's evil empire. I always enjoy reading your comments. Viktor Orban has once again proven that he feeds from Putin's hand. Against the backdrop of the European Commission's proposal to increase the aid fund for Ukraine, Orban released a very pompous video in which he talks about, and I quote, a shocking leak of the EU budget, which supposedly exposes a dangerous adventure.
The winner of the latest Brussels plan is Ukraine, since the Commission has allocated a lot of money for Ukraine. The biggest losers are European citizens, especially farmers, who may find themselves in a very difficult situation, since under these conditions, Hungarian farmers, along with their European colleagues, may receive much less support in the future. The proposal from Brussels can be summed up as follows. This is a budget that is friendly to Ukraine, and its purpose is as clear as day. They want to transfer the money of the European people to Ukraine. We propose that they withdraw it and prepare something that serves not the interests of Zelensky and Ukraine, but the interests of the European people and European farmers. Process needs to be stopped.
Mr. Orban, was this brilliant scenario written by Kremlin specialists? Come on, admit it. Although nothing surprising, everything has long been clear from the position of Hungary and Orban's government. I can only say that the intensity of accusations will definitely increase. What do you think? Do such Kremlin lackeys have a place in the European Union? In my opinion, no. China is openly siding with Russia. Xi Jinping has announced increased cooperation with dictator Putin against the backdrop of Donald Trump's threats. How exactly does China plan to help Russia, and how will these affect the capabilities of the occupying army? Let's keep watching.
The masks are off. China will strengthen its support for Russia in the war against Ukraine. Xi Jinping made the corresponding statement during a meeting with Lavrov in Beijing.
Our respective foreign ministries must diligently and effectively implement the significant and crucial agreements that we have successfully reached with President Vladimir Putin. We must also considerably strengthen our mutual support and comprehensive cooperation on various important multilateral platforms, such as the highly influential Shanghai Cooperation Organization.
The statement by the Chinese leader is a response to the shift in rhetoric and overall position of Donald Trump regarding the Russia-Ukraine war, Putin, and the supply of weapons to Ukraine. We are very dissatisfied with Russia. We will impose very strict tariffs if there is no agreement within 50 days. The tariffs will be about 100%. I come home and say to the First Lady, I spoke with Vladimir today. We had a great conversation. And she says, oh, really? And yet another city has just been shelled.
The deepening, as they meticulously put it, is primarily and significantly connected to the undeniable fact that Donald Trump is indeed actively trying to implement his comprehensive concept of peace through strength and has already clearly outlined the precise contours of considerable pressure, not only on the Russian Federation, but also on those specific countries that diligently help them circumvent the primary and extensive sanctions. And that is, well, first and foremost, China.
After the war began, China became a lifeline for the Russian economy. Currently, the scale of mutual trade between China and Russia is almost $250 billion a year, including a huge import of oil. Essentially, Trump's statements are threats not only to Moscow, but also to Beijing.
If Trump really starts seriously supplying weapons to Ukraine and begins, let's say, to significantly slow down the Russian Federation, and perhaps even turn the tide of the war and all this against the backdrop of, say, large-scale sanctions from both the EU and America, well, then yes, in that case, China will again, in a sort of shadow mode, very likely increase and scale up its support for the Russian Federation.
Despite Beijing's official statements about neutrality, in reality China is already one of the accomplices in the war. China supplies machinery, gunpowder and special chemicals to dozens of Russian military factories and is also involved in weapons production on Russian territory. We have received information that China is supplying weapons to the Russian Federation. At present, we have general information from the security service and intelligence about gunpowder and artillery. We believe that representatives of China are involved in the production of certain weapons on Russian territory. China's position on the war in Ukraine was articulated by Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi during closed-door talks with the EU's chief diplomat Kaja Kallas. Beijing cannot afford a Russian defeat in Ukraine, otherwise the United States will shift all its attention to Beijing. We do not support Russia's military efforts financially or militarily. If that were the case, the conflict would have ended long ago. China is satisfied with Russia's current position and role, being entirely dependent on Comrade Xi's will. And although Beijing did not start the war, the continuation of hostilities serves the interests of the Middle Kingdom.
China fully and completely understands that the very agreement that Donald Trump, the former president, wants to reach with the Russian Federation is profoundly disadvantageous for it, primarily because it would indeed partially weaken China's significant grip and influence on Russia itself, thereby altering the geopolitical landscape. What needs to be done for this exactly? To do this, the scales need to be balanced. If Donald Trump really starts to further significantly strengthen Ukraine's overall security sector and its defense capabilities,
while the strongest representative of the democratic world in the West is awakening from its lethargic slumber, in the East, the largest dictatorship is becoming more active, trying to maintain the balance of power.
Propagandist from Solovyov's channel Anastasia Kashevarova told how Russian convicts released from prisons established perfect order in the so-called LNR. Blogger Denis Kazansky posted a clip from the television broadcast on his own Telegram channel.
in the LNR, for example, the Commandant Regiment, part of which consisted of former prisoners, established order. In Luhansk, former convicts were among those keeping order. And the order is perfect.
How wonderful. It really makes you want to live in Luhansk. Finally, the convicts have brought real order there. Now, it's not like that damned European Union, it's a paradise. And here's another epic fail, which blogger Kazansky also posted on his Telegram. Residents of one of the Donetsk villages recorded an appeal to the so-called head of the so-called Donetsk Republic, Pushilin, in which they complained that since 2014 they haven't had a normal life. They don't get water, and the garbage isn't collected. Because of this, rats and maggots have appeared.
We, the residents of the Tretivo-Shidne settlement of the city of Donetsk, the long-suffering Tretivo-Shidne settlement, are addressing the head of our republic, Denis Volodymyrovich Pushilin, with demands to restore the water supply to our settlement.
Well, look at that. They defeated the Banderits. There hasn't been any Ukraine in the city since 2014, yet somehow life keeps getting worse and worse. Even Russia has come, but there's only less water now. It's a paradox. This is how people live in territories occupied by Russia. I'd even say they're just surviving. And what do you think of all these stories? Write your thoughts. Don't hold back in the comments. So, the Russian army is looting villages in Russia itself, specifically in the Belgorod region, where several settlements have been evacuated due to fighting. This was reported by the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. In radio intercepts obtained by intelligence officers, residents of the Belgorod region describe new episodes of looting by the Russian army.
So what are they up to? People have been driven out, and now the looting is in full swing.
But that's not all. A woman in the audio recording expresses outrage about social payments for those who have been forcibly deprived of their homes.
We don't know anything. We haven't been paid a single kopeck yet. Nothing at all. Well, yeah, what else did you expect? They already said about the food rations. When they're moving in, Maria, we're moving in, I say, well, we got it. Pasha got it. What difference does it make to us? We got the food ration, but it's not about the food ration. The point, this robbery.
Tatiana. Well, what can I say? Personally, I'm not surprised. Everything is in the best traditions of the Russians. Just listen to this. A US citizen received the Russian citizenship for espionage in Ukraine. Yes, you heard that right. US citizen Daniel Martindale was granted Russian citizenship for spying in Ukraine. For 2 years, he provided the enemy with the coordinates of Ukrainian military sites. This was reported by the Russian online publication Mediazona.
Narrator. In February 2022, he came to Ukraine from Poland, posing as a volunteer, and lived in the part of Donbas free from occupation. After the invasion of Ukraine began, the American contacted Russian military forces and offered himself as an artillery spotter. At the same time, he helped residents of the Donetsk village of Bohoyavlenka gather firewood and repair roofs after shelling. When Russian troops entered the village, Martindale was taken to Rostov-on-Don and subjected to a lie detector test. He now lives in Moscow.
Tatiana, just recently in Moscow, Daniel Martindale received a Russian passport and an order from the so-called DPR. See for yourself.
Correspondent. Now you are a full-fledged citizen of the Russian Federation. This fact is confirmed by your passport. Welcome to our multinational family.
Daniel, thank you.
Tatiana, the American himself says that he wants to live not in America, but in occupied Mariupol or annexed Crimea.
Narrator. The people who live in these regions may have gone through the same things I did. And they understand that the land has truly been freed from criminal rule, and we are all focused on a better future.
Tatiana, personally, for me, it's rock bottom to choose Russia over America. Do you agree? Like this video to support what we do, and be sure to subscribe to our channel Ukraine Today so you don't miss the next episodes. See you soon!